I love the vite tool, but I was a little bit confused by the config files for a while. There's help, of course, but eventually I realized that there were only three things that I was doing almost every time. So here is a good file to copy. I'll leave the link in the description. And let's just take a look at what this thing does. Again, really, there's only three things. That config file has so many options. Oh, by the way, you can make this a TypeScript file. It seems to me like a good idea. Don't. I mean, basically, there's so many things that I have tried that didn't work, and I realized if I just focused on just copying this, it worked all the time. Again, I don't know why, but just stick with this file. All right, notice that we're doing three things here. The target defaults to esnext. This works well for me. As far as I know, your web browser is going to make you upgrade, and you're never going to be more than a week or two out of date. Best practices can depend, but this just works for me, so I usually leave it here. You can customize the input with the HTML files that you want to use. By default, you only get one file from Vite, this index.html, but as I'll show you in more detail in a minute, you can have as many HTML files as you like. And finally, the directory structure is perfect for publishing with GitHub Pages. I publish a lot of my stuff this way. It is so easy and it's completely free. And it took a little bit of figuring out the first time, but now the directory structure, I just copy it as is from here. Okay, let's take a closer look. Again, there isn't much to that. You can just look up target esnext. The directory structure. My input is going to stay the same as normal. The input's always going to have the all the HTML files at the top level, and then this source directory for almost everything else, all the TypeScript and CSS. Public works too when appropriate. So basically I'm not changing that directory structure, but it's the output here. The outdir, this is the compiled version of everything, and I forget what the default is, but I moved it to docs because that works really well with GitHub, and it'll let you publish stuff. Yes, this is what gets copied to the website. Again, I'm using GitHub Pages in this case, which is free to me. And the interesting thing here, I had some fun with the names. As it says in the comments, these names aren't really used for anything. I use them for fun and I guess for testing. You know, you haven't really tested your product until you've tested it in Chinese and a few other languages, backward languages. Anyway, that only appears, this is way hidden in here, where you don't really have to worry about it. And you notice the right side of the names, this is a hash. It's just totally gibberish. And I decided the left side might as well be gibberish too. There's just no reason not to do that. And what does this get us? Well, let's take a look at GitHub. And here's my project, the one we're looking at, but again, I have the same config file in most of these projects. vite.config.js, that's what we're just looking at. vite.config.js. And this project is associated with a web page If you haven't seen this before, this is really nice. This is just GitHub Pages. And sure enough, that is my index. And then it's pointing to a bunch of things. Morph was something I've been playing with recently. It's been playing with this for a long time. I thought it'd be simpler than it is. There's just a lot of different options. But again, there's more than one thing that got built here. All of these were in that same project, and they all got built at once, and no effort. So if you haven't seen it before, this is how you set up GitHub Pages. So I'm on my project, in this case random SVG tests, settings, and pages. This is nice, some status. Yeah, this one I left alone. This is deploy from a branch. GitHub Actions lets you configure this so many more ways. I know at work we do a lot of fancy stuff with GitHub Actions, but I'm just talking about the default that, yeah, this is what I use for myself. The default, no work required. And then down here, branch. This is where you set it up. By default, it's on none. That means it's turned off. And the only thing I had to do in here was go and set this to master. You can do other things too, but master is just turning it on. And then you only have two choices here. Again, with if you try hard enough, you can do more, but these are the choices that you normally get. Root is great if your entire thing is just a HTML project. But this is great because this is the output of my project running. And again, I'm just leaving it there. And that's why we have to set some stuff here. There's some other settings down below too. But that is GitHub Pages for you. And oh yeah, one more thing. Let's go back to the project. And this here, it wasn't on by default, but it was easy enough. Yeah, just that one checkbox. But it's a normal URL. You can use it the normal ways, any way you want. Well, I hope that was helpful. I used to spend more time on their documentation, and now I just copy this and do the minimum customization each time.